Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel, and today I want to share with you somebody who's helping women to embrace their divine feminine energy. Marguerite Rigoglisoso is the author of The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. She's also the founder of Seven Sisters Mystery School and is a world-renowned teacher helping women to understand the knowledge of the virgin birth.
Hi Marguerite, I'm so grateful to have you on the show and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Gerds, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, bless you. I'm just excited about this conversation, and what a perfect day to actually have this conversation on the 13th, Friday the 13th, which is all about the divine feminine, which we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, those moon cycles and so forth, and numbers that really are sacred instead of spooky.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's funny, isn't it, how we've been always told to stay away from this number, but actually this number has so much magic and power for us as women.
That's right.
Yeah. So I would love to go back to your story about what your life was like before you became a spiritual mentor.
You know, it's been like a slow burn kind of thing. I'm trying to think, like, when was I not a spiritual mentor? So let's roll back the clock. Well, 2012 is when I started Seven Sisters Mystery School.
Wow.
That's when I really stepped into spiritual mentorship in a big way. Prior to that, I had been working in the academic arena as an adjunct faculty member for various graduate schools and undergraduate schools in the San Francisco Bay Area, and one in the UK, actually, a little bit.
Wow.
A program that I helped to found, the Center for, or the MA in Myth Cosmology and the Sacred, which is now defunct. But so, I was kind of getting into mentorship in my academic role. That kind of naturally went along with teaching and so forth. And so it's been, a road from, I would say, being a writer and a freelance writer into then going into academia for women's spirituality and doing all of those explorations both personally and academically. And then eventually weaving a lot of skills together in 2012 and then onward, when I really became that triple or quadruple braid of teacher, of material, mentor, and one-on-one psychic reader with people, ceremonialist, esotericist, that kind of thing. Before really getting into the spirituality, I think I was always seeking something. I always had something of a mystical bent, and that got expressed through the travels that I would do to Europe. I was always traveling to sites of, ancient import. And so, it was just kind of like a slow roll into who I've always been meant to be.
That's beautiful. And it's so interesting that you bring up 2012, because that's when my life shifted, was in 2012. My whole life shifted, like transformed forever. And a lot of other people I know, there was something about that year that shifted everything, whether it was, even if it wasn't 2012, it was 2015. But there's something about those two dates where women just suddenly started to rise up and say, you know what, enough is enough. I need to speak my truth and move forward with who I'm meant to be.
I agree. I think there was a big upswell, a big awakening. I have a lot of people who tell me that they had their awakening. That's the term they use in 2012.
Yeah.
There was, that was the shift of the calendars in the Mayan tradition. And it was, they were calling it the end of time, but it was sort of the end of time as we knew it, because ever since then, we've been going ever deeper into interdimensional understandings and, world crises that have also sparked awakenings for people, all of that.
That's so fascinating. And yeah, 100% I agree with you. I remember 2012 being such a very chaotic year, but also a very powerful year. And for me, it was actually being made redundant and having a cancer scare. And basically, I was sat in the hospital waiting for my results, and there was nobody around me. And I was like, we play the victim in our lives, right? Like, what have I done to deserve this? And I heard a voice saying, you created this. And then I was misdiagnosis, and I walked out of the hospital and I heard, it's time to heal. And I just never looked back. So yeah, so 2012 is a very big game changer for me. But I also know that, like you said, there was something energetically shifting. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but there was so many people just like saying, I'm done with the story. I'm done to the 9-to-5 life. I'm done with burning out. I need to come back to who I am, but who am I?
Yeah, exactly. It's been huge. And, just when you thought that was the apex of it, then there was 2013 and 14 and 15. And every year after that, it's like, mercy, it just feels like it's ratcheted up until quite recently. I've had a little bit of a let up, actually. And it's wonderful to feel life flowing again after, honestly, it just feels like 1 to 2 decades of a lot of hard work, anxiety, worry, pain, going through my own inner evolution, my own healing crisis emotionally, dealing with material from childhood, all of that.
Yeah. 100% relate with you. I don't know if it's linked to Pluto though, because Pluto has been in Capricorn and it's ending in November on the 19th. I think 19th or 21st. But a lot of people who have cardinal signs have been going, as they say, through the shit since 2008.
That's what it feels. I don't know what I have, but, and not only that, Gerds, but I had Pluto opposite my natal sun. Transiting Pluto opposite my natal sun for like 3 years in there. You can imagine. It was all this awakening to my own personal underworld, the Earth's underworld, everything.
Wow. It's so fascinating, and I can't wait for November to come.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. It's going to be such a beautiful shift because Pluto enters into Aquarius. It's been in Capricorn since 2008, but it'll be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So can you imagine the levels of creativity we're all going to have? The magic, speaking. Yeah.
Finally. Pluto is such a tough taskmaster, as is Saturn, right? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I'd love to talk to you about the secret life of Mother Mary. Can you tell us more?
Yes. This has been something that has been unfolding for me over all of these years as well. And really before, going back to when I first had the downpour that divine birth was actually a real thing that priestesses could do. And that happened back in 2001. And then I went into a whole academic exploration of that. My first 2-3 books are based on that. And that, of course, got me right into looking at, well, how does Mother Mary fit in with this if this was kind of a global phenomenon? And so I really started diving much more deeply into who Mother Mary is and working with her personally as well. And so when I wrote my previous book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, I was really writing this book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, at the same time. But I realized they had to be 2 separate books because the first one is all about her as a divine birth priestess from before day 1, when she was conceived divinely by her mother Anne, all the way to her conception of Jesus. And then this one was basically taking it from what was she doing in her womb practices to conceive Jesus, but then really going through how was she working with Jesus during his lifetime? How was she supporting his resurrection through her womb? And how was she a mentor and basically the leader of the whole early Christian, so to speak, enterprise after, his crucifixion resurrection? So that's what this book is about. And it's amazing, Gerds, what I have uncovered.
Wow. Wow, that's unbelievable and amazing at the same time, but it makes sense because the wisdom and history about women has been hidden. The truth, it was always there, as you've said, but it's been uncovered, it's been wrapped up in lies and egos and
Distortions, diminishment, and disappearing. Because this is part of the epic in which we have been. Talk about wheels of time. It's been a very negative epic for the feminine for quite, thousands of years now. And now there's the turning of that new rung of the spiral, and we are emerging from all of that hellacious time where we've been separated from the mother writ large.
Wow. So when you started researching this, what came up for you?
Well, my awakening to the sacred feminine really happened in, the 1990s.
Wow.
When I started reading. I went to a women's spirituality lecture and then a program. These were not accredited, but this was when I was living in the Boston area prior to my going out to California and going to grad school and all that. And I started realizing, I went to this one lecture by this therapist named Greta Bro in the Boston area at the time. And she said, did you know that the original veneration was to the goddess, and that there are many cultures around the world that still venerate her? And by the way, if you're European, you're in your deep ancestry, there was goddess veneration. And she said where to go, what books to look at. And I just looked at them all and I said, oh my gosh, I knew it. It just confirmed something deep inside me. That I think in a way it's like the feminist movement had been trying to get to, right, in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, but they weren't finding a spiritual portal,
Yeah.
And here was the spiritual portal. And I'm like, forget all that political stuff. I'm going straight to the mystery of all this and what this means in our lives. And I just couldn't get enough of it. I was reading voraciously, going to these women's spirituality programs. And again, that's what led me to the California Institute of Integral Studies to take it at an even more serious level. I got a master's and PhD in philosophy, religion, and humanities, but the underpinning was women's spirituality, goddess studies, right? Because CIIS was one of the only two places that was academically offering degrees in this regard. So it's been a journey of personal healing, spiritual awakening, and, professional unfolding. All of this time for several decades now.
Wow, that is beautiful. And it's interesting what you're saying about, the feminist movement. I feel like what happened there is that they didn't know their own power from within. They thought they had to fight with men power to fight back. So it was not really the divine feminine they were fighting with. They were fighting the divine masculine, but the toxic divine masculine with their own toxic divine masculine. So there was no feeling of the empathy and understanding and the compassion of the divine feminine, the magic of her. They didn't know how to reach that. And I feel like a lot of women burnt out. Like when I think of the 80s, I think of like the shoulder pad era, trying to be like a man, act like a man, think like a man. But again, they were losing sight that they only needed to know themselves from within, and that was the divine feminine. And like you said, it's deeply within all of us, but it's almost like they were afraid to go within to actually find that power of her within themselves.
And can you blame them? I mean, where in our culture could they have gotten that information?
100%.
It was such early days. There were a few little writers here and there who were saying, hey, goddesses, hey, this, but they were just looking with all the cultural forms that they could. They knew there was a big problem. They knew women were not being treated well, were being oppressed and suppressed. And so they went the political angle and the social institutions angle. But thankfully, in the 70s, going into the 80s and going into the 90s, there were these scholars and
Wow.
sacred women who were looking at all this. I mean, Maria Gimbutas, the great archaeologist who unearthed that there was goddess veneration at the lowest, rungs of the archaeology in Europe and elsewhere in the Middle East. There were people like, Margot Adler and Starhawk, Vicky Noble,
Oh, yeah.
all of these people who were really starting to unearth the sacred feminine. There was Merlin Stone, When God Was a Woman. That was pivotal for people, right?
Wow.
That was the beginning. Merlin Stone, When God Was a Woman, opened everyone up. Maria Gimbutas and her archaeological material. And so there's been kind of a slow uptake of this, and then women started coming out and writing about it, and then experiencing the sacred feminine, opening their oracle channel, writing from that perspective. So it's really been an accumulation.
Yeah.
And here we are now unveiling Mother Mary. And I'm not the first one to have unveiled her. I had some very good mentors 20 years ago who helped me to do that. But I've done more of a deep dive into like translating the texts of what's available about her to make them meaningful and understandable to all of us, for us to really see who was this woman who had her full ascension, and how is she available to us today still? What's there for us? This is what's exciting. When people contact me about having read this book, they're weeping. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so meaningful, and or wow, I've had a relationship with Mother Mary for a while, and or gee, I wasn't even brought up Christian and I've been contacted by Mother Mary. So like everyone's kind of coming out of the woodwork with this. Ooh. And it's a very exciting time. And so I talk about, how Mother Mary is that personal healer, how she is that spiritual mentor, that planetary awakener. That's the phase that we're in now.
I absolutely agree with you, because so for me, I'm in my late 30s, and so I grew up seeing the shoulder pads era, through my mum and the women around me, toughen up. And even when I started my journey in 2012, it was still about action and the heavy toxic masculine energy. And it wasn't until 2015 when I was on my knees. I got really sick and I had a health condition, and I had to slow down. And I had no choice. And that kidney problem, which I was born with, I didn't know until I was 30. Took 2 years to get diagnosed. I was, on my knees saying, is this it? And that's when the divine feminine came my way. Then I started to read about the goddesses, and, all of that came in. And I'm seeing my generation of people are especially waking up. And Mother Mary has been coming up, I would say, the last 6 or 7 years. There are so many women rising up from my generation and just I have this calling, but then I have this shame about it because this is what I've been told about her. But I don't think, like you said, it's true. There is something deeper about her. She is a spiritual mentor, like you've said.
Yeah. And Gerds, in the beginning of my book, I talk about how I wanted to be more than arm's length away from Mother Mary when I was, growing up and in my 20s, and then, you're trying to be all sexy and everything. She was just the poster child for everything you didn't want to be. A virgin, meek and mild, passive, not empowered. That's how her image was twisted by a church that shall remain unnamed. But again, there are all of these documents available, not to mention artwork that goes back to the first century after, the crucifixion, that's showing Mother Mary in a much different light. So when you sift through all of that, and there have been scholars before me, that have written about it, like Ali Cattouz in England. I honor her so much because here her beautiful scholarly book came out, and then another one with Marianne Beavis, really bringing all of this material to light. And then I'm, helping to translate that even to be even more accessible for people, right? So there's just so much more to this sacred woman. And not only that, But what everything she went through is what a lot of women are seeking, which is what we're calling ascension. I call it insentient, meaning let's get on with this. Let's move into higher dimensional consciousness. Let's co-create the new earth. And when we cross out of our bodies, let's go into merge with Mother Divine. This is exactly what has happened for Mother Mary, which is why she's so present and active as a great master being, because she's there in this big umbrella form, and she can work with us one-on-one. She can work with us in groups. She can work with us globally. And it is amazing how many people have had hidden devotions to her. And
Wow.
this is not even counting the probably millions of people who've had devotions to her through the actual church.
Wow.
And I'm talking about women who are kind of like outside of that, like they get some of what's good about her from, church doctrine or history or whatever, but it's mainly this whole other thing. And this is the unveiling that I have been participating in. And that is the feature of The Secret Life of Mother Mary, which I hope your listeners will check out.
Can you tell us more about it? Because I was actually going to ask you about it.
Yeah. So, again, it is looking at a lot of what's been said about her in suppressed gospels that weren't considered, quote, canonical. They weren't accepted by the powers that were. Biographies of her that were probably based on even some lost documents about her.
Wow.
And other material from, for example, Sri Kaleshwar, the late Hindu saint who crossed over out of his body when he was 36 years old in 2012, but not before. He left all this material about, the authentic Mother Mary, her relationship with Jesus, and so forth. So I weave together images, stories. Yes, that's in the book. There's a whole chapter devoted to her holy womb chakra and what she was doing and how those teachings are open to all people, not even just all women, but all people, right? So there's a whole process in there. I talk about Mother Mary as the healer, the evidence for that. Mother Mary as the mentor, especially to women in the early community, and including Mary Magdalene, the evidence for that. Mother Mary as an exorcist, the evidence for that, and how Mother Mary took leave of her body at the end of her life and went essentially rainbow body, as they say about these monks and things that have happened, these saints and so forth. As well as, my own personal story, my miracles, my health situation that was addressed through Mother Mary, other interventions that I felt from her. And then I also offer people access to free guided meditations where you can experience Mother Mary and or Mary Magdalene, one per chapter, and they go along with the theme of the chapter. So there's a link that people can go to and just sign up for those free meditations. And people have been writing in saying, oh my gosh, they're so meaningful. I had such a beautiful experience with this, that, or the other meditation. So it's a powerful, multifaceted book, really.
Wow. That is beautiful. And I love the fact that you've added meditations, because there's something deep about meditation. Again, it's the feminine, isn't it? We're healing through meditation. We are connecting to source energy, which you're talking about Mary. And, what a perfect way to connect on a deeper level. I think it's stunning.
That's right. And incidentally, Gerds, those meditations are taken from some of my previous monthly Mary and Magdalene empowerment circles. Once a month on the third Thursday of the month. I've been running these circles for several years. Wow. Each one is a different theme, a different experience, to either receive healing or empowerment from one or both of these great masters. It's an hour and a half. It's very, very powerful. Then we have some group sharing, and I go into my oracle space. So those are essentially channeled meditations, you know, in the moment where I've been in my open state. And I'm also working with women right now. We just finished enrollment for my Marian Magdalene Priestess training, which is a whole new thing on the planet, where, you know, I'm helping women to really embody the teachings and beingness of the Marys and the Magdalenes, because these are lines of priestesshoods, right? To help their own lives, for their healing and for their spiritual service in the world. So we're getting active with this. This is not about, you know, sitting back, drinking cocoa, reading this book and going, oh, that's nice. It's, what does this mean for me? How can I engage this? How does this benefit me? And how can I then be a world server through this type of energy?
Wow. I really do feel the world is shifting right now, just like what you're talking about as well. We really are coming back to the feminine, the divine feminine, the divine mother that lies within all of us. It's been crying for so long. And there's people like yourselves and lots of people that have been doing the deepest work for so long to really bring this medicine back to us all now, that we're able to understand it on a deeper level that we wouldn't have understood in general. I really feel that there is a massive, even though there has been massive awakenings before, but there's something right now that I feel like it is a big shift for 2025. And I don't know if you feel that as well.
I absolutely do feel it, especially after the shenanigans of the last 4 years. That was another interesting trick that went on. But yeah, what I would say is that, you know, I have had this personal initiation of being separated from my mother when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
My mother left the planet. She had lupus. Wow. So I'm like a living embodiment of the separation from the mother.
Yeah.
And that's what led me, you know, if we really are going to go back to it in this lifetime, that I think was the seed that led me to, first of all, wanting to understand, well, what is death? What are the death mysteries? Where does a person go, if at all? You know, I mean, that's a big occupation that you have as a child when your parent leaves. You're wondering, what's it all about? And that leads you to the other side, beyond the veil. And then that leads you to, well, what's all that about? What's there? And that leads you to understanding the whole ecosystem, you know, and population of beings that are part of that, headed by the Great Mother, right? So it was an initiation, a very difficult initiation for me, that I guess I agreed to take on in order to really deeply feel that separation from the mother, so that I could help bring forth this material to help all of us who have had a separation from the mother, you know, the grandmother, come back into connection with her, because it is that deep soul connection that heals us and that fills us. And without that, we're still dealing with trauma, we're still dealing with unworthiness, we're still dealing with shame. So this is a very real passage that we all have to go through individually and collectively. And I think that's what you're speaking to, the shifting that's going on, the realization we must get back to our mother.
Wow, this is so interesting. As you were talking about it, I really felt this powerful sense that every woman in your lineage has been trying to wake up, but something has got in the way. And you were the one that then had to be the one that says, this is it. It's time for us all to heal, not just me, but all together as a family. And I really feel that as you're saying that. And I'm actually understanding it from my side as well now. Like, I've seen a lot of sick women in my family, and it's not like they've done it on purpose. It's just because they've had to be so much in the masculine energy that they never really were able to embrace the feminine, the divine mother, the divine feminine. And I can see why I've been kind of chosen as well in this lifetime to heal everything, because I actually reversed I ended up having a kidney problem, but I had an operation. I ended up getting kidney disease, but I reversed it. So like, why is it within my own lineage I am the first to heal several health other conditions, by the way? we are chosen for a reason to say, like you said, enough is enough, and we have to wake up.
That's right. Yeah, you've chosen it. You know, one of your mysteries was looking at the health illness interface. And what is that all about? And how do we empower ourselves around that, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge mystery in and of itself. So you are definitely on an amazing road here.
Thank you. Thank you. And I feel like a lot of women as well out there are waking up. They're looking for different outlooks apart from one way of being told about their health. They're kind of all waking up saying, actually, no, we can take our power back. And I really feel that right now that there's people, it is tough. Like you said, it's a horrible initiation, but once you get through it, it's like the light just shines bright and you cannot see things the way they were before. It has to move in a new being, the real essence of who we are truly are and meant to be in this world.
That's right. And there's so much to be healed within the so-called healing healthcare system, which is based on toxicity half the time and anti-life, anti-natural, anti-organic processes.
Yeah.
And, the healthcare system is kind of crumbling, as anyone knows who ends up having a healthcare issue and is trying to schedule even appointments now. I mean, I don't know about in the UK, but in the US, it's crazy. And access is becoming less and less for people. You have to fight more and more to get a doctor, to get a bed, to get care, to get someone to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the solutions that they're providing are like, wow, let's kill an illness through poison. I think there were and are better ways, and this is what we're recreating. This is what you've been recreating. This is what Mother Mary and Jesus knew about. They were known as massive healers, and they would both say, all of this is possible for you to do.
100%. And it's so interesting as we keep talking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I keep seeing things. But like, I actually started working in the pharmacy when I was 18 whilst I was studying, and I dispensed medication. And I remember as an 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old going, why does this elderly person need to take 10 medications? Because one side effect led to another. But I didn't understand why I was questioning it. But something in my mind was saying, this is not right and this is not healthy. And people around me that were taking medications, I'd always ask and I'd question it. And I'm like, there is another way. And so, and then as I got my own health journey, I like naturally healed a lot of things. And I was able to, like you said, that awakening from within, but not everyone can hear that. And that's where some of us have to be out there shining that light to remind us all that, like you said, like Mother Mary, it's through us all that we can heal. It's trusting from within and not to give our power away like we blindly do. Many people do.
That's right. And a lot of times we don't get to that place until we've really had our face pushed into the mud. We've really had a dark night or two or three of the soul.
Yeah.
And the pain is what propels us to break through all this three-dimensional exoskeleton into, what else is there available. It's the pain. So for a lot of people, it's the emotional pain, and that gets them on a therapy route or, different healing modalities just to get relief from the inner pain. And then there's the physical crises that can go on that scare us and put us in contact with the death realms, right? So a lot of us have been learning through pain and awakening through pain. Mm-hmm. My vision for the earth is for us to get to a place where we are awakening through joy.
Ah, yes.
That's the new earth. And that's why I'm involved in this work with the Marys and the Magdalens, because I believe that is the organic way of life on earth, as it is meant to be, as it once was. When we hear the word Eden, paradise, Shambhala, yes, Avalon, all these terms are memories of how it was to live through joy. Yeah. And we are, as we're throwing off all of this stuff and detoxifying and moving through the morass, like, many of us who have come with these missions do, it's just lightening everything. It's lightening the load for others. And we're coming into a new dawning.
100%. There is something, I don't know if it's tonight, the energy, but we really are feeling it. Like there is something happening. There is something
Friday the
shifting.
13th kind of energy. Yeah. But
I
you know
love
what? The Marys are here to help us very, very much. They're
Yeah.
like, look, we are here for you with your worst shameful thing, your deepest personal pain, you know, your most human suffering. And we are here for you to help you with that illumination, that awakening, that fascination about the realms of mystery and where you can go in this lifetime and beyond.
It's beautiful.
And they're all about helping the earth itself throw off the shackles of these energies that have been upon us for quite a long time. You know, back in the day with the Gnostic sources, they indicate that the sacred family knew all about these forces. They were here precisely for that, and they still are here for that, to help us get out of prison.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I think we're going to have to do another episode soon. Gosh, yeah, we are coming towards the end of the show, even though I want to talk to you more about it. But I've got a few more questions. What are your 5 top tips for someone who really wants to connect with the divine feminine, and especially Mother Mary? Where do they start?
You know, you just start by sitting quietly, closing your eyes, maybe lighting a candle if you wish, taking some breaths, and just say, Mother Mary, please come into communication with me. Or Mary Magdalene, please come into communication with me, show me. And so that's tip number 1. And then watch what happens. Be alert. Be alert for your signs and synchronicities. That's how these masters work. Be alert for dreams. The second thing would be stay longer with one or both of them in meditation. Begin a dialogue, conversing, seeing what is it that you receive when you invite them to be with you and you just start asking them questions. What answers come to you in your mind? And let yourself be imaginative in this regard, because that is them speaking to you, right? So that's just for the Marys, right there. Have an altar that you create with a candle and some sacred object and something where you can just see every day, oh, this is the center now of my spiritual life. I am remembering about my spiritual life every day. Being in nature. So we're on number 4. Being in nature, enjoying it, walking in it, reveling in it, breathing it in, be it, whatever the season, letting yourself really feel the glory of nature, because that is really where Mother Mary dwells. That's the message that I've gotten from her again and again. And that's why I have a whole chapter in The Secret Life of Mother Mary devoted to her relationship to the Fae and the fairies. Okay. So those are 4 ways. And 5th way I would say is find your like-minded kin who are similarly curious, or maybe who are already doing things like this, and talk to them. Go to their events. You can just start looking online. You can come to 7 Sisters Mystery School, which is the one that I run, and you can go and look and see what we're up to, get on the email list, and start getting in these threads of various people who are already walking this path and can help you.
Thank you. Those are so beautiful and so potent. So simple and so potent. And
simple. It really is simple.
Yeah. What are you most grateful for?
I am most grateful for feeling like I've been supported in getting through a very long gauntlet. I don't think any of those nights gauntlets can compare with what you and I and others have been in, just on the very human level, with all the trauma and everything. I'm grateful for all of the paths and people and impulses and guides who have helped nudge me and supported me on my intrinsic inner journey toward healing and helping me get to a better place.
It's beautiful. And my last question is, what shines your inner light?
I think whenever I think about or explore or meditate with the mysteries, these great masters, whenever I read anything in this regard, whenever I am in my own oracle space and I'm getting downpours of information, that really turns me on. It turns on my light. It's when I know that I am exactly where I need to be. I'm in my happy place, and from there, deepening into the well of love that is within. Those are the things that allow me to shine my light in the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show and just sharing your wisdom about the divine feminine and Mother Mary, and lighting a spark within us all to remember to come back home to ourselves.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Gerds. Thank you for having me, and many blessings to everybody listening. May you be supported in your path, and may you find it if you're not already on it.
Bless you. And say if somebody's looking for your book right now, where can they find you?
They can find the book anywhere books are sold, through the Inner Traditions website, Barnes and Noble, all those other, Amazon, or ask your local bookstore to order it for you, to keep those bookstores in healthy shape. And it's also, again, in Kindle, it's in audio. All right. And if they want to find out more about me, they can go to 7sistersmysteryschool.com. And the 7 is written out, SEVEN, and just start exploring. There are many free offerings, and you can start, joining in with our community through the newsletter, and you'll be on the journey with us.
Beautiful. We'll be putting this in the show notes. So thank you again for just being yourself and taking that calling.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's my joy and pleasure.
What a powerful interview with Marguerite. It's so important to really understand the divine feminine and the history and the knowledge of where it comes from and how it can help us in our everyday life to come back home to ourselves. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. The feminine is about caring for humanity, honouring the womb and all of her children, both herself and the children of others. That's a quote by Sahara Rose. Take care, my sisters. Bye. Now, if you're struggling to let the past go and infinitely trust yourself, visit my website at www.gerdshundel.com, where you can find my program, The Infinite Trust Method, where I help you to transform trauma and learn to trust yourself so you can powerfully move forward in your life. For more information about the show, visit www.gerdshundel.com. And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.